Welcome to the podcast. I have an incredible guest today. I'm super excited. 2.5 years ago, I listened to Doug Evans on a podcast, super inspired, so educational, and I started sprouting. I had sprouted a little bit before that, but I was like, you know what? I'm going all in, learning all the things. So here he is today to tell you about the Sprout book, his journey into sprouting, and to educate all of us as to like what is sprouting, why is it so nutritious. Doug, welcome.
Well, thank you so much, Anand. I would say the reason why I did those podcasts, the reason that I wrote the Sprout book is to inspire people like you. And I just love how you just took the ball and ran with it. So great job. Just
Thank
great
you.
job.
Thank you. You're the inspiration.
Well, terrific. I feel like my life is have purpose now.
So
So
touched.
yeah. So in short, like I knew about sprouting for 25 years. Like I'd been sprouting, on and off for 25 years. If I ever went to a farmer's market, I bought sprouts. If I traveled and went to a supermarket, I would grab the sprouts. And I knew that sprouts were nutritious. And it was only out of necessity when I moved to the desert that I realized like I was in a food desert and that water was scarce, food was scarce, and that if I wanted to take control and continue to be this raw vegan life, that I would need to grow my own food.
Absolutely.
And that's when like I made the shift from amateur sprouter into like all in kind of pro sprouter. And
Yes.
I tell the story that within a month, I was basically went from alfalfa and mung bean to alfalfa, radish, clover, broccoli, chia, lentils, peas, flax, fenugreek, like you name it, I was sprouting it. And that I was able to get, crazy as this sound, thousands of calories of nutrition
Insane.
and everything that I needed. And that was like the big aha, that sprouts actually are vegetables, right? They're miniature vegetables, and they contain every single micronutrient, phytonutrient, polyphenol, bioflavonoid, antioxidant that exist in mature vegetables. But it's even better because they're in a concentrated form. So
Right.
you're actually getting a higher degree of concentration.
What was the most surprising thing you learned while you were researching for your book?
It was interesting. I reached out to Dr. Oz, Dr. Mark Hyman, Dr. Dean Ornish, Dr. Joel Kahn, Dr. Joel Furman, and
Mm-hmm.
some of these doctors were functional medicine, some were
Absolutely.
plant-based, some
Mm-hmm.
were paleo or ketogenic.
Mm-hmm.
And what they all had in common is they all loved sprouts. And
Yes.
I'm like scratching my head. I'm like, maybe either any of you New York Times bestselling authors, maybe you should write the Sprout book. And like,
You're
no,
really
but
qualified. Why not? Right?
my deal is this. And so they all had their own thing that they were passionate about.
Right.
But what they had agreed on was that sprouts were an incredible nutrient dense food. And that nutrient dense food was so accessible that you
Mm-hmm.
could grow, as you know, because you've now grown, hundreds
All the
of
things.
thousands of seeds. If
Yeah.
not, I think you've probably crossed the million seed
I would
threshold.
think so. I would think so. Avid sprouter, 100%. Yeah.
Right. So you as an avid sprouter, like these seeds are complete living organisms. And when you add water in the environment and you sprout in trays and in jars
All the
and
things.
any apparatus that you have, that these seeds want to sprout. They
They
want
do.
to
Oh,
germinate,
absolutely.
right?
Yes.
And so the fact that you can grow this in days without soil, without sunshine, without fertilizer, and you're actually getting something that is better than commercially grown because if it's commercially grown, you don't know when they started, you don't know when they expire. Here, you are co-creating with our creator this food that's edible, and you're able to consume it as a fresh crop every single time. And
So
that's like,
beautiful.
whoa,
So
oh my God,
beautiful.
I get to
Yeah.
have it.
It's amazing.
And another layer is that you're consuming things that are the complete living organism. Like rarely can you eat a whole organism,
Right.
right? And here with the sprouts, especially in the jar method, you're consuming the root and the shoot and the endosperm and the embryo and the testa. Whereas, if you're eating broccoli, market stage broccoli, it's cut from its
Mhm.
root system, right? Or if you're growing microgreens, which I love, you're eating above the fold, you're not getting that root structure. And that root structure is very, very complex. If you think about the energy and the stem cell like environment, which is causing the sprouts to double and triple on a daily basis, exponential growth, there's something really magical in there that we get to consume. One of the things that people don't know that I didn't really think about is that there would be no life on the planet without seeds that germinate, that become sprouts, that grow into mature vegetables. When you're holding a sprout, you are holding something that is alive.
So for those that are new to sprouting, which is a lot of people, I mean, some people have never, they don't even know what the seeds look like. They don't have jars. What are some of the easiest sprouts to grow at home?
I mean, as you described, lentils and garbanzos, they sprout in days.
Yeah.
Like that's really super easy, to grow those. And then, alfalfa has been like
Yes.
the staple of hippies in the country for 100 years. So
Yeah.
those are really easy. Broccoli sprouts, once you master alfalfa, broccoli sprouts are pretty easy to grow. And like that's a great place to start. There's things like if you have like a terracotta tray and you put some chia or flax on there, when you're sprouting any bean, you're reducing the amount of phytic acid, trypsins, lectins, enzyme inhibitors. So you're making all of these things very bioavailable.
I love it. Now for advanced sprouters, right? What are some more unique and lesser known sprouts that people should try growing?
Well, like fenugreek,
Yes.
very popular as a spice
Yes.
in many cuisines. When you sprout the fenugreek, you're actually increasing the bioavailability and you're getting this maple-like flavor. It's
Yeah.
actually very low glycemic and
Yeah.
fructose and glucose because it's coming from a seed. So that's one. We talked a little bit about sprouting chia and flax
Chia and flax. Yep.
because by sprouting them, you're activating them and you're turning them into this green vegetable,
Mm-hmm.
and you get to eat the whole thing. Um, I think I pioneered sprouting sunflower seeds in a jar because normally people were growing sunflower
In a
sprout
tray.
on
Yeah.
a tray,
Yeah.
and like I just don't like a jar, so I
I know,
threw
but they
them
take
in.
so long. You have to be so patient waiting for those.
Right, but you get better. The
Yeah.
key is, start small, finish
Yes.
big. So if
Yes.
you overcrowd them, they don't get circulation.
Right.
Um,
Yes, absolutely. So what does Doug Evans have growing on his countertop right now? Do you have favorites or is it you just like to keep rotating different kinds?
I love, like, I'm pretty much always growing broccoli sprouts,
Yes.
right? So broccoli sprouts are like a staple.
Me
I
too.
like alfalfa sprouts.
Me too.
We have guests coming in and they're a great kind of salad base.
Yes.
And then I love the legumes. So I love the lentils. I love the garbanzo beans. I like soybean sprouts because they're just so, they taste good And I like that they start off like tan and then they turn green. And,
Right?
like that's probably my favorite way to eat soy is by sprouting soybeans, and soybeans contain all 8 essential amino acids. So it's really powerful. It's a very potent part. So that's what I'm usually growing, on my counter.
Now, I know you touched on this a little bit, but how does the nutrient content of sprouts compare to other types of vegetables, produce?
It's interesting because you're consuming the sprouts at a young, tender age. The nutrition is concentrated. So
Mhm.
as a plant gets bigger, it may get more fiber, but there are certain compounds that are finite. So like the glucoraphanin and the precursor to sulforaphane, as the vegetable gets bigger, that does not scale. It actually gets diluted. So
Oh, wow, I didn't know that.
yeah, so like every seed has like N amount of the glucoraphanin in it. So as
Oh,
it gets
wow.
bigger and bigger, which is why they say broccoli sprouts are 20 to 100 times the nutritive value of the mature broccoli. It's because
Wow.
when they're young, everything is concentrated and dense. So
Right.
that's what makes the sprouts so nutrient dense. It's just their
Wow.
size before they scale, because as they get bigger, they'll get more water and
They
they'll get more
dilute.
fiber. They
Yes.
dilute, yeah.
Wow, that is incredible. Thank you for that. That's some education for me right there. So,
Yeah,
can you share a bit about the relationship between sulforaphane and glucoraphanin in broccoli sprouts? Because I was confused about that. So, if you can explain it in really simple terms, I thought there
sure.
was actual sulforaphane in
No,
broccoli sprouts.
no. So actually, so sulforaphane is derived predominantly from cruciferous vegetables. And there's some other plants like the moringa has sulforaphane in it.
Mm,
But if we stick to the plant, so out of the cruciferous vegetables, broccoli has the most of this sulforaphane potential of
right.
cruciferous vegetables. And and broccoli sprouts have this multiple of the glucoraphanin than mature broccoli. So
Hmm.
what happens is the broccoli sprouts contain glucoraphanin, which is an isothiocyanate or a glucosinolate. And when you chew
Hmm.
or blend or
Hmm.
juice, you
Hmm.
open up the cells, the vacuoles, and then they get opened. And inside the broccoli sprouts, there's also an enzyme called myrosinase.
Hmm.
It's almost like fusion. When you mix
Exactly. Yeah.
the glucoraphanin with the myrosinase, it forms sulforaphane. And there's things that you can do to enhance the sulforaphane creation process by adding like fresh mustard
Mustard seeds.
seeds,
Yeah. Hmm.
because that has the myrosinase. So
Hmm.
you're playing a little bit of a chemist. There's also can be myrosinase in the gut, in your gut bacteria. But
Hmm.
in the most simple form, if you take the broccoli and you chew it, you break open the walls, which is
Hmm.
another reason why it's important to chew your food so you don't have undigested sprouts, going in your mouth and coming out, the
Right.
back door.
Right. Yeah. So it's really important to chew it. And from what I understand is that it doesn't last very long. So you shouldn't like make the juice and let it sit there or blend a smoothie and let it sit there.
Yeah,
Correct?
you want to keep things fresh. What
Hmm.
happens is when you do anything aggressive to the plant, tearing, shredding, blending, juicing, um,
Chopping. Hmm.
chopping, you're triggering an oxidizing process,
Exactly. Hmm.
which can affect all the items. And therefore, there's certain things that you can do with the sprouts that are nature's preservative, like freezing them.
Exactly. Hmm.
So you can freeze them. But I like to do things fresh.
Yes. Fresh is best. Yes,
Yeah.
awesome. Now you touched on this as well a little bit. What is your vision for the future of sprouting, and what impacts would you personally like to create by spreading your love of all things sprouting?
So I really think that we, and I say we because you are a major part of this, like we're creating a movement of awareness to basically educate people that sprouts are more than a garnish,
Hmm.
and that sprouts can create food equality, food justice, nutrient dense, and that you can grow them anywhere. So my vision is to make sprouts a thing, like somehow, somewhere, sprouts, things have become a thing that weren't a thing. Like,
Right?
right, when I
Yeah,
grew up, the only time you saw coconuts were if you were in the Caribbean, right?
right.
And now pretty much you can get coconut water where they sell Coca-Cola. It's like, the
It's
same things
nuts.
are
Yeah,
available.
yeah.
And so there are a lot of things that weren't things, like even bagged salad. Like when I grew up, you were getting heads of lettuce, and now
Yeah,
you get bags of pre-washed baby greens, half greens, spinach,
right.
arugula. So I think that you're going to start to see sprouts sold more via retail. The
Yeah,
one advantage to sprouting on your own, which is why I wrote the Sprout book,
the
is
cost.
because you get this incredible leverage by sprouting on your own.
Yes, I agree 100%. Well, as we're wrapping up, Doug, I just want to thank you for your time. This has been just so educational. And of course, I'm just like so excited to have this time with you. Is there anything else you would like to share with the audience? Be it, somebody who's like, oh, I'm worried about this, or oh, it's all so hard, or I don't have the time, or whatever it may be.
I mean, I think if we understand how humans were programmed, when they started to walk the face of this earth, that we were living in scarcity. So there wasn't a lot of food around.
Hmm.
So we had to go out and, hunt or gather the food. And now basically food is everywhere, right?
Everywhere. Oh my
Food is
gosh.
ubiquitous.
Yes.
And then because food was, scarce, um, you got a reward system for eating heavier fatty food, right? So you got that dopamine hit. So our nature has not evolved in this 100,000 years to the current circumstance of ubiquitous access to food. So people today have so much access to food and they eat it because it feels good, right? So they eat it and it feels good. So I think one is to be aware that food is going to taste good. And if you eat this processed food, it's going to taste good and it will have consequences for you. Don't do it on your own. Like
Mm.
reach out to people, get partners, collaborate, get your family turned on, get your kids sprouting, because it's fun and it's powerful to be able to incorporate it all in there.
Awesome, Doug. Thank you once again. I so appreciate it. And of course, we'll be seeing each other on Instagram as I'm always sharing and you're always sharing my stories, which I really appreciate. I've connected with so many incredible people. And one of the things that people, when they see me sprouting sunflower seeds in the jar, you can sprout sunflower seeds in a jar. It's like, yeah, but it, takes patience. It's a labor of love. So, you just got to know that going in.
Exactly. All right, Anand, we'll
Awesome.
keep up the great work. You have the best weekend ever.
You
And
too.
thank you for
Thank
having me.
you. Take care. Bye bye.
Bye.